So you're trying to for jobs like in the IT industry and you're looking for jobs here in Canada. Siguro you're from the Philippines, you have IT background and you're trying to come here or you already came here in Canada and you're looking for IT jobs, especially software development. This podcast is for you. Uh, Again, I found a friend who's been working from he when he transitioned to Canada. He's been working in the IT sector already, and then also easily found his mark here in Canada. So, um, mga kaibigan, welcome Lance Golez from Cebu. Hey
Hey
Lance, how are
Paul,
you?
good, good. How are you?
Good. So for those who don't know you, Lance, can you summarize your transition here in Canada and how you landed your QA software development job?
For sure. Yeah. But first of all, thank you for having me here, Paul. Yeah. And I have to correct you on something that you said earlier about easy transition. I wouldn't say it's that easy. Everyone will have some challenges, and I definitely
Yeah.
have a fair share of that one.
Hmm.
But basically, short description of myself is I'm actually a staff quality engineer for a company here. Well, in Canada, we're called Skip the Dishes, but Skip the Dishes is actually under a bigger umbrella that has markets in Ireland, UK, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
So as a staff quality engineer, it's not really a known term for everyone, but you could think of it as synonymous to lead, or a test lead, or sorry, a leader in a team, but
Okay.
without the management part. So I'm more of a I'm more into the technical side of the
Mhm.
company. Basically, what I do is really I have a proactive approach when it comes to quality. What that means is I develop tools that would enable us to keep on testing our software, making sure that before we actually release it to the customers, it would be in good shape. I, Given there would be some bugs that might be missed, but that is part of the job. That is software. Uh,
Okay.
it's how do I say this? You can't really get away of that one unless you have like millions of hours of testing. So yeah,
Okay.
a bit about of me in Cebu. I was also a quality engineer. So
Okay.
in that part, I was fortunate because the discipline of work that I had in Cebu, when I got here, there are actually times where there were better technologies back in Cebu than here.
Hmm.
But it's not always the case. The good thing is the discipline of the work is mostly the same. Software development, the Git repositories we were using, the technology we were using, and even the approach that we were using. So I
Okay.
guess in that part, I would agree that it was an easy transition for me. And yeah,
Okay.
short but long description. Sorry about that.
It's okay. When did you move here in Canada, if you don't mind me asking?
For sure. My wife and I moved here in Canada. That was around September 2021. I'm
Okay.
very bad at dates, so after this interview, I might get corrected by my wife. But anyways, I'm pretty sure it was around September 2021. And if you don't mind, I do have some really funny. It's not really funny, but it was part of the challenge
Okay.
during our transition here from Cebu to Canada. So yeah, I guess during the when we got our approval, we had all our tickets ready.
Hmm.
2021 was the peak of the pandemic, right?
Yep. Yeah.
There was one night I distinctly remember this one telling my wife uh, we kind of have a long distance relationship during that time because it was
Okay.
quarantine all over Cebu.
Hmm.
She was with her family, I was with my family, and we couldn't see each other because of the rules and everything. The funny thing
Oh,
is,
okay.
a few weeks before our flight, uh, I told her, "Hey, bud, I think I'm not feeling well. I feel like this
Oh
is
no.
COVID."
Oh no.
Exactly, yeah, yeah. And I remember her saying, "No, it's not COVID. Don't think about that." She's an optimistic person. don't think about that. It's probably because of the weather and stuff like that. And to be fair, it was a change of weather. It was raining almost all the time, and it was a bit cold. That was 20-ish degrees. That was cold for me in Cebu. But
Yeah.
yeah, things changing in Canada. But basically, uh, long story short, I had myself tested, and lo and behold, poof, I had COVID.
Oh,
So it was very unfortunate.
snaps.
Exactly. So it was very unfortunate. So I had to go in quarantine. Uh, these people from the government actually came to my house in scrub suits. It was a scary experience for me. It was the first experience, actually. Well, I think it was everyone's first experience.
Hmm.
But basically, I was moved into a quarantine center so I could, so my family would be safe. And my wife unfortunately had to brave herself outside and do the rebooking and everything, all of the tickets and stuff like that.
So
So
was only you who got COVID from within your family?
fortunately, it was just me. Yeah, fortunately, inside my family, yeah, just me.
Oh,
And yeah,
okay.
so the really fun part about that one is I feel like it was also it had its pros and cons. So basically, we had to move our flight schedule maybe a few weeks back. Oh, few weeks, something like that one. And
Hmm.
while I was actually in the quarantine center, that is actually when I took the opportunity to actually find work before we got here to Canada.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, Dan, I remember it being very difficult because of the time difference. Their HR, their recruitment teams would usually reach out to me 2, 3 a.m. back home. So
Yeah.
I kept applying through LinkedIn. I forgot the other job portals that was available during that time. Uh, but
Indeed,
basically,
maybe Indeed.
yeah, Indeed, LinkedIn, maybe. I feel like that was LinkedIn. LinkedIn, for sure, that was LinkedIn. So, as I was in quarantine, I thought to myself, or not really thought to myself, but I actually had orders from my wife. You have to look for a job while we're waiting. It's like, yes, boss, of
Yeah.
course, anything for you.
I gotta
So,
say, happy wife, happy life.
exactly, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I kept looking for a job. It was really challenging, as I said, the time difference, and since we were already in a pandemic, the approach with interviews was quite challenging as well. There were companies that had their interviews not interactively, but you would have to record yourself answering their questions. Uh, I guess at first it might be easy, but to me,
Yeah,
when
that's kind of
I'm
weird.
exactly. When I'm having a conversation, I actually rely on visual cues, saying, "Am I doing okay with this answer?" and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So what
Yeah.
happened with that uh, opportunity was I was just going on and circles and circles, so I didn't get the job. But fortunately, with just persistence, I kept applying, and I actually landed an interview um, with Skip the Dishes. And what's really cool thing about that, I feel like Skip the Dishes is one of the. This is based on my um, experience, of course, but I feel like Skip the Dishes is a really good company, especially with the people inside it.
Hmm.
Because what happened is, so the recruitment team actually scheduled an interview, say, hey, okay, we'll have this interview set, stuff like that. And I actually confirmed, okay, I'll see you there in that meeting, stuff like that. And as I said earlier, I was in the quarantine center, so I was in on medication, lots of medication, sleeping pills. So, uh, by the time I had my first interview, I actually slept through all the night, and I actually missed my first interview. I was like, and when I woke, shoot, I had my interview last night. What am I gonna
Oh
do?
no.
Did I miss the opportunity and stuff like that? So pretty bossy move for me. I actually messaged the recruiter in LinkedIn, I guess, or
Yeah.
maybe on an email or something. Uh, I didn't actually expect her to respond. That was an
Hmm.
immediate fail for me if I was a recruiter,
Yeah.
but thankfully, Kimon Rochester, that was a recruiter for Skip the Dishes. She was she was so kind to respond that, hey, don't worry about it. We'll schedule another interview for you.
Hmm.
And I had my second opportunity.
Uh,
And just when things, or when you think of it, I feel like that was a really great opportunity, but I actually messed it up the second time. So
Series of
this,
unfortunate events.
oh man, and that was due to my ignorance
Hmm.
about Canada.
Hmm.
Um, when you think about Philippines, we only have one time zone. It's just the
Yeah,
same time for Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao.
yeah.
I didn't know about that one in Canada. Turns out when I scheduled or I booked my calendar as a reminder, I actually booked it for a Vancouver time instead of the mountain time. So again, it was another no-show for me during the interview. I felt so ashamed for myself, but another bossy move. I still tried to communicate with her,
Yeah.
and yeah, fortunately, I got the interview, and yeah, after that stops, I guess, she told me, or I kind of explained to her during the interview questions that I'm really sorry, I'm so sleepy, I'm on medications, it's 3 a.m. on my end. Turns out when she actually reviewed um my profile or my resume, she didn't actually see the address that was it's still in Philippines.
Mm, okay.
So yeah, she was very kind. We still went over the interview. I was so scared because I was so sleepy. I wasn't sure if I was answering the right questions or if I gave the best impression. But fortunately, she said, "Okay, you will be scheduled for a technical interview, but you don't have to worry about the time. We'll wait for you here when you get to Canada." So,
Okay.
um,
So they already know that you're coming here to Canada.
exactly, I
Mm.
explained to her that I will be there in a month or so, and they actually waited for me, and I was so fortunate of that opportunity and very thankful for the recruiter. I feel like she was the best, man.
Yeah, nice. I mean, very patient as well. Imagine having to deal with two fail interviews and then the time difference. That must be tough for you as well. And also, may I ask if your work background in Cebu helped you get this job that you
Oh,
have?
definitely, definitely. In my resume, it was all quality assurance engineer. So my experience there, I think it was a good amount of time of
Hmm.
experience. And like I explained earlier, the discipline of software development back in Philippines, compared to Canada, is more of the same. I was fortunate
Okay.
to have like those experiences, which actually landed me a job here in Canada.
Okay. Nice. So when you're here already, what is a typical day in the job for you, Lance? What do you do?
So, as a staff engineer, most of what I do is really just uh, really, how do I say this, assessing new requirements. That's one. And I guess majority of my job would really ask for is really mentorship. Basically, new quality engineers would come in. Some
Hmm.
of them might have no experience with mobile development or web development, vice versa. So I usually take the time to learn these technologies and kind of guide them through on what would be the best practices, review most of their pull requests. Sorry, a pull request is the piece of work that they actually propose in order
Hmm.
for us to merge that into the master branch or something like that. So um, that would be my typical day. Most of it would really be researching new technologies as well, making sure that our software would be, or our testing tools would be on par with whatever the bleeding edge would be is out
Okay.
there. Things like AI, making sure that it's a good testing framework and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's
Okay.
my typical day.
Let me just step back a little bit. For those who are not in the IT industry and very interested in becoming part of in the IT world, software development world. So if I correct me if I'm wrong, but majority of the time you have a main product and you You have like add-ons that you updates that you create for the main product, and those are the small tweaks that you do for the main product to either improve security, improve user experience, um, and other stuff, other features, right?
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
And then where does the QA software developer gets in there?
So basically, for new features, like for example, what would be a really good example? Social media.
Okay.
Um, a new feature would come in, say something like two-factor authentication, um, of some sort.
Hmm.
So, as a quality engineer, uh, we actually work collaboratively with developers to make sure that, okay, these are the requirements. We want to make sure that these requirements would be functional by the time we release it. So basically, as a quality engineer, at first we would design test scenarios that would verify this two-factor authentication that it would actually work in production. So we design these test scenarios, and by the time the software is available for staging, we would then execute the tests, verify that, oh, okay, this is actually working. And on top of that, new features, we also want to test out the existing features to make sure that the new introduction of code didn't actually break anything else. So that would be uh, the approach for new features that are coming in. And by the time the two-factor authentication or whatever feature that is matures, we then move to another phase, which is called test automation,
Hmm.
so that whenever a new feature keeps coming in, we wouldn't have to repetitively test it manually. We would just have
Okay.
to run a script. Okay, that's good, all automated. And yeah, that actually gives us a lot of coverage and basically give us time back to really focus on what's important for the
Yeah.
project.
Okay. Well, for each project, you would like, for example, for each iteration that you make for each project, you assigned like a manager, a scrum master for all these projects, and then you make their iteration. Is that how
Yep.
it works?
So for the anatomy of our team, each team would actually have their own responsibilities. Say, for example, the login team that we use an example, there
Okay.
would be a specific team that would be working for credentials and stuff.
Hmm.
So in that team, they would have their scrum master, their product manager, they would have their senior engineers, their junior engineers. I, however, actually as a staff engineer, would have to work collaboratively with different teams from time to time
Yeah.
because
Okay. So you're in the man in the middle.
exactly. I feel like I'm a mercenary. So when
Okay.
the upper management would like to, hey Lance, could you establish a process for this team?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm the guy they call. I establish the process, and once we have a quality engineer come in for them, I train them, and basically when everything is smoothing out, I will have to go to another project and stuff like that. So
Okay.
yeah.
So was it an easy transition when you move here to Canada? Was it the same language, same kind of thing, environment from the previous work in Cebu and now here in Canada in Skip the Dishes?
Yes, actually. For the
Mm,
companies I've worked for in Cebu, I work for a Japanese company, uh, a Swedish company. So that is where I got most of my experience. And since we were communicating with expats or counterparts, we would have to I'm not so sure if everyone's would agree on this one, but most of us had to speak in English, so I was trained fully. I was well aware of their culture.
hmm.
Uh, I was well aware of what not to say and stuff like that. So it was a pretty easy transition for me.
Okay.
And what worked well for me is that my jokes back in the Philippines also work with uh Canadians. So yeah,
Uh, a joke is a joke, no matter where you go.
exactly, exactly, yeah.
So, Lance, what are the challenges for you when you're at work here in Canada?
Yeah, most of the challenges I have would really be, since I work with different teams,
Mm-hmm.
there would be a lot of context switching that I have to go with. Say, for example, this team would uh, deal with TypeScript or JavaScript. Okay, I'm good at, sorry, I'm well aware of that. I'm well versed with JavaScript and TypeScript.
Okay.
But by the time I move to another team where they would have to work with React, I would have to learn everything again and stuff like that. And when I jump into another team, they are with Java and stuff like that, so I have to relearn and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest challenge I have is when I work with this team and this team would actually need my assistance, I'd have to shift my focus again. And sometimes I would actually commit code that is actually for
The other.
Java and not
Yeah.
JavaScript and said, oh no, this is confusing. And there would be times when I would look like a fool in front of junior engineers, like, that's not the right thing to do. And, oh, I'm so sorry. This was another code and stuff like that. So I would say
Okay.
that would be the biggest challenge for me, context switching and context switching with projects as well.
Okay. For those who don't know, context switching is more of switching on the program language that you're using. And each program language, different logic, different codes that you're using, right?
Yes, I like to build on top of that. Context switching could also be applied with projects. So if you have a projects with credential management,
Okay.
um, and when you jump into another project with carts, for example, that is kind of context switching because you will have to refocus. Oh, this is not how the carts team do things. This is not how the credential management
Yeah.
do things. So
Mm,
that could be applied there as well.
I see. What do you think of what do you think of AI now coding and helping new
Hmm.
programmers?
Ah,
What is your
man.
thoughts on that?
I would say that is the pretty hot topic like for the whole year of 2024. I have had opportunities where I was sent out for work to actually see technologies about AI and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, for software development, I feel like AI is something of a tool that could improve our development, actually. Most of
Yeah.
the people even for the people, some people that I know are actually scared of AI, and that is fair. Uh, but how I think of it with my experience, I feel like it's just another tool coming in to help out development. During my time, there was PHP, there was JavaScript, and then TypeScript came along, and
Yeah.
other developers would have to worry about, oh no, there wouldn't be any demand for PHP developers anymore.
Hmm.
But what really happened is whenever a new technology comes in, software developers, a good software developer would just have to adapt with the new technology and
Yeah.
then basically won't have to worry anymore about new technologies coming in. So, yeah. Uh, Sorry, with regards to AI, I haven't answered your question. Uh, yeah, it is just another tool for us to use in our arsenal, not only specific for software development. You could use AI anywhere for your how do you say this? Maybe in accounting, I guess. If you
Hmm.
need like a formula, hey, ChatGPT, how do I create a formula for this one? It would give you that formula. You wouldn't have to research anymore and stuff like that. So again, it's just another tool that you could use in your arsenal for you to improve your work and so on and so forth.
Okay. So it's
There
not
would
really
be,
replacing you.
I can't say that for sure. There might come a time that it would replace me, but I feel like with the capacity it is right now, because with AI, you would have to train the AI with a lot of data, and collecting that millions of data to train a machine is really difficult. So
Mhm.
maybe in the far future, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah, maybe.
My advice on that one is again, just learn to adapt to the new technologies, and you won't have to worry about that one.
Yeah, for sure. What about staying up to date with the current trend in program languages and current like AI and stuff like that? How does a software developer get current updated information?
That's a really good question. Yeah. So In my case, I actually subscribe to a lot of newsletters. Not really a lot, but I handpick newsletters like something like PLDR. What they do is they actually based on their name TLDR, they would
Yeah.
just give you a summary of what these new technologies are coming in
Okay.
every day. Not really every day, but most of my mornings I take some time, 10 to 15 minutes, seeing something like, oh, they actually have a new framework for this one. Oh, there's actually a new AI for this one.
Okay.
So things like that. And then what would happen is when you broaden your scope of those things, by the time there's a new project that is coming in, a manager would usually, okay, what would be the best technology to use for this one? I would say, hey, there's actually something new that is coming. I haven't had the time to research on it, but I feel like it's a really good opportunity for us. So managers would actually create tickets. Okay, Lance, could you do more research on that one? So
Mm,
then I would have a more detailed learning on new technologies such as, say, for example, Detox. It's a testing framework for a mobile application.
okay.
Then I learn and then I try to relearn and then try to teach it to really instill it in my memory.
Okay.
And yeah, that's basically how I keep up to date with new
Mm.
technologies that are coming in.
I see. Okay. So it's really really important to be up to date, get the latest trend of technology, so that you won't be behind your company, or the codes that you're currently using won't be
That is
behind.
so true. Yeah.
Okay, nice. What about uh, so coming here, you're working. What is a typical career path of a software developer, especially a QA software developer?
Mhm. So it's similar to software development, like the actual software development. Um, you start as a junior, of course.
Mhm.
You work your way through senior and then or mid engineer, then senior engineer, and
Yeah.
there will come a time where there will be two paths that would be provided to you. There is the management part where you get to manage people in the software industry. And there is the technical part where you actually dive into deeper technologies and setting up frameworks and stuff like that. So that is actually the path that I took. I'm more of an introverted person. I don't do well with speaking to a lot of people or speaking to new members of the company and stuff like that. But for it's not really unfortunate, but as you actually step
You,
up the corporate ladder, you will have to
yeah.
collaborate with a lot of people. So thankfully, we
Yeah.
actually have trainings for that one, and yeah, I think I just got better over time.
Yeah. You have to play with your cards, right? So if you're introvert, then maybe this is the pathway for you, and that's the pathway for them. Something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. A colleague of mine actually just said this one. If your work is invisible, then you're not actually giving a really good impact to the company. So
Hmm.
you would have to go
Yeah.
out there, explain, hey, this is the things I did, collaborate with people so that all your work will be known and you'll be in a good spot for in the company for sure.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, that's very important in any career. Having the visibility and be able to, uh, for lack of a better word, toot your own horn, um, gets you places, I guess. So, what about the typical, on an average, compensation of a software developer? Do you have that in mind? Are you allowed to share that?
Yeah, as you know, Skip the Dishes has or have or sorry, was the only company I have.
Mm,
I never had the experience to go out there, see the other benefits, but
okay.
most of my reference right now is from what is this? Indeed. So a
Okay.
typical software quality assurance engineer.
Mhm.
This is in BC. I haven't set it up properly, but it would average around 70 to 100K a year. So yeah,
Wow.
somewhere about that one. And that is
70 to
actually a
100K.
competitive rate. Yeah,
Wow. That's that's good dough. Yeah.
it's good. Yeah, yeah.
What about benefits? What are the
Mhm.
non-typical benefits that you guys have?
While working for Skip, non-typical benefits would really be the food allowance that we get every month. So
Oh, nice.
exactly. So every month, oh, sorry, every Friday, uh, my wife and I would just, hey, I think it's time to get milk tea or something like that.
Yeah.
So I would just order it up for free and gets delivered, or I could pick it up in the restaurant. That's one really good benefit, but good and bad because or my wife and I are actually gaining a lot of weight since we got here. I think everyone is
Yeah.
gaining
I
weight.
think everyone. Yeah.
But anyways, so that's one benefit and one really I think this is a typical benefit for most software companies. It would really be the extended healthcare.
Hmm.
Most of the things I heard, um, IT industries really offer good coverage. So you would cover your wife,
Yeah.
your children, exactly so. Yeah.
So there's a common misconception that you really have to study um, all these, like study in college, be
Mm.
in IT school to land a software development job. Is that really true? Is that really necessary? Or if you're self-taught, self-trained software
Um,
developer?
it definitely has its benefits when you go through college. Uh,
Yep.
in college, you would have um, opportunities to work with a team. Um, you would have opportunities to get feedback from your professor and stuff like that.
Okay.
Um, but you don't definitely need to have a college degree in order to get in the IT industry. I have friends who actually were in a different practice. I
Hmm.
have friends in interior designing that actually went to a software developer. And mind you, that friend of mine was a really good software developer. So I wouldn't say that you really need it, but it would have its benefits if you actually go through college for the IP industry.
I see. Okay. For the most part, there are some pros and cons, but not really necessary. It's not like it's gonna hinder you to get a job here in Canada, something like that.
Yeah, we've had or we know a lot of CEOs of software companies that actually dropped out of college. Uh, I feel like that those are the 1% of the
Yeah,
people that get
yeah,
successful that drop out of college. But like I said, it's not everything. It's not everyone. Some might like it with some some people might like having to learn by themselves. Some people would need to have guidance and so on and so forth. So
yeah.
it's a yes and no answer for that one.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. What about for skill sets? If you're really planning to be in the software um, engineering, software development, what are the top program languages that you should put in your back pocket?
Right now, speaking for our company, most of what we do is really mobile and web development. So that's heavily on JavaScript, React, native. So I would say if you have that in your skill set, I feel like you would have good opportunities here in Canada.
Okay, nice. What about company cultures,
Mhm.
stuff like that? Important stuff because those are the non benefits that people tend to find, but it's not in the fine print. So, what are the company cultures? You said Skip, that's your first job here in Canada, but
Mhm.
um, and you never applied for others. But based on your network, do you have like horror stories, company culture wise, and stuff like that?
Hmm. Horror stories. I wouldn't.
Yeah, maybe I'm
I.
reaching, but yeah,
No, it's all good. I won't say the name of the company, but this is a definitely prominent company. So if you actually work for this company, uh, delivery of products is sorry, every company is all delivery is always important, but
yeah,
whenever something fails in production in their company, uh, or sorry, that's a bad example. Let me give you another example.
okay,
Deadlines. Okay, deadlines. So their company would actually, or their sales team would actually give out impossible deadlines, even though the engineers would say, "Hey, this is actually impossible. You can't you can't give out or you can't deliver a project in 1 month. That would take 9 months and stuff like that."
Mhm.
A really funny analogy is you can't deliver a baby with 9 women. It would just be one mom in 9 months, right? So that's the perfect analogy for that one. So sales team would kind of promise impossible deadlines, and what would happen is the engineers would actually take fall of it. We would, or the engineers would have to work overtime
Yeah.
on weekends, on holidays. So that is a really frightening. I feel like that's one of the horror stories I
Yeah.
had, but it's not in my company. Or yeah, no, it's not in my company.
Yeah. It could be like a not necessarily a horror story, but a toxic environment to work with because you're given a impossible deadline and you're pretty much
Right. And it's a
reaching to
reality because
yeah.
in software development, you would have to be the first one on the door. So you would have to make sure your software is competitive in a way that you would be first for that technology, first with that feature and stuff like that. It's understandable, but yeah, I feel like that's still a toxic relationship for engineers and sales. So yeah.
I see. Okay. Okay. Well, can you share some of the, I guess, experience that you have working here in Canada as a software developer? What is the coolest stuff that you have experienced? What is the not cool stuff that you've experienced?
Mm. I don't think it's specific for um, Canada. I would say this is most IT industries,
Yeah.
not really most, but some really good companies out there. They would have this happy hour at some point.
Mhm.
So even though we're working, we're busy working and stuff like that, there will come a time where everyone would just go on break,
Okay.
maybe play pool or something like that, catch up with your buddies and stuff like that. So I feel like that's a really good practice in the IT industry. It would give you the opportunity to talk to your colleagues, de-stress, whatever, and it might even give you the opportunity to solve the problem you're actually having.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of experiences where I go to the pantry, get a cup of coffee, and I was just staring at the window, and a friend of mine actually just came in and say, "Hey, what's up, Lance?" and stuff like that. Oh, yeah, I actually have this problem, and it's bugging me for the whole morning and stuff like that. And they would actually give you a solution, and it's very, yeah, it's a very good practice, I guess, for IT companies, for example.
Okay. Nice. So, yeah, I mean, I would agree because de-stressing. You're pretty much you're networking. You're talking to fellow software developers. Like I have an issue here, X, Y, and
Mm,
Z, and maybe they have the solution. Right? You never know.
exactly. So you just
Mm,
have to speak out, talk to a friend, and stuff like that, and your problems might be, or the solution to your problem might be there.
yeah, exactly. That's a cool advice. Are you guys doing it here in your company?
So for Skip, we're actually mostly remote work, specifically for Calgary.
Yeah.
So instead of actually going to the pantry, that would be impossible. What I do with my team is we actually have a meeting room that is set up for any time. We call it the toilet because I'm not so sure if I could say it here, but it's where we talk shit and stuff. So we
Yeah.
call it the toilet, and it can be it could get weird sometimes because if I have a female coworker and hey, can we go to the toilet and talk about this? And some people
Yeah.
might know what the hell are they talking about? So yeah,
Yeah.
so we have that meeting room that is set up for the whole week and stuff like that, or it's a
Hmm.
permanent meeting room that anyone could jump in if they want someone to talk to, or I could just message a colleague, hey, could we go to the meeting room? I have this problem and stuff like that. So that's how we uh, work around the remote work setup. So we have that meeting room, everyone could just jump in. We don't have to talk about work. We could just um, collaborate. And, yeah.
I see. How how hard is the software development job for you? Rated 1 to 10 for you.
Oh man.
if you want to look it back?
For myself,
Yeah.
I would, I love my job. I actually love coding. I have this curious mind whenever there's a problem. Okay, what's happening with this one?
Okay.
Don't get me wrong, there will be days where I would get sick of it and I would just say, I gotta quit my job. I don't like this anymore. But when I
Yeah.
find the solution, I was like, oh, I love this job again and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So on a rate of 1 to 10, I would say 8, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
Eight.
pretty good score, I guess.
Yeah. That's kind of high compared to other like jobs out there. Uh,
That is true. Yeah.
eight is high. So, what do you think is the most important? Um, like when you are from the Philippines, you're moving here, you're trying to find an IT work, software development job. Like, what is your biggest tips for that?
Oh
You've
man,
you've done that. You've done that
yeah.
already. So, what do you think are the biggest tips for you?
Biggest steps, like I said earlier, adapt. So we now have AI. Before you submit your resume to the recruitment, make sure you have AI review it. AI would, or things, tools like ChatGPT would give you feedback saying, hey, instead of saying this, you might have to say this one. Or
Okay.
it could potentially increase your chances of landing that job because it
Hmm.
was so it would organize your skills. It would remove unnecessary stuff in your resume, like skills that you got in high school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of resumes in that one, by the way. Yeah, three-pointer shooter and stuff like that. So ChatGPT would actually help you out with that one. Make use of the the platforms, Indeed, LinkedIn, stuff like that. All of the IP companies would definitely be there. They would definitely be posting all the job vacancies there. So yeah, that
Yeah.
would be my
Gonna.
biggest thing.
I want to add something to that. To that essence, for me, maybe people don't know this, but in Canada, majority of the companies, major companies here, they use ATS, which is a software that automatically transcribes your resume and filters it for the HR recruiter. For
Mhm.
those who are not going to be accepted, for those that are for maybe for your consideration, and having an AI prepare your resume for another AI is very important. Very
You would
important
stand
tool.
out. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, because it's pretty much you're preparing yourself to get a better chance. And that's for me based on my experience looking for jobs here in Canada. So yeah, that's pretty much a cool advice for you, Lance. Is it different? I would say work wise, is it different based on your industry? Is it different here compared to in the Philippines in Cebu?
Mm, this takes me back. Mm, I don't think so. Most of the things
Mm,
that we do back in Philippines are fairly similar to what we
yeah,
do here. So
mm,
no.
I see. Okay. Well, what about I would say uh, since you guys are well compensated, the benefits are there. What do you think are like the selling point of being a software developer versus becoming maybe focusing on networking, IT networking in the IT sector? Because pretty much the IT sector is very very big.
Mhm.
There's IT networking. There's also cybersecurity. There's also software development. What is like for you? What is the edge for software developers versus all those types of jobs in the IT industry?
That's a really good question. Hmm. What would be the edge of software development? I would think uh, opportunities, I guess,
Hmm.
just because every company would need a software. Every company would have to release some type of application that would support their customers.
Yeah.
And if you're a software developer, you would have basically those opportunities as well. And since a lot of companies are actually popping up everywhere, new startups and stuff like that, so you would have a bigger opportunity. Uh, but don't take my word for it. That is what I think is the edge of software development.
Okay, that's awesome. So, what is the future for you, Lance? What do you think? Five to
Future for
10 years
me.
from now,
Uh,
5 to
so
10 years from now, yeah. What's the future for you?
Yeah, as you know, my wife is recently pregnant. So
Yeah,
5 to 10 years from now, I'm just gonna focus on being a really good dad. This will be our first kid, so I have no idea about it. There is no README instructions for this one, like
yeah,
software. So I'm not so sure if ChatGPT can help me with this one, but ChatGPT, you take care of the
you,
kids. So like, I
yeah.
can't do that one.
You
So
can reach
five
out to me. Yeah,
Oh man, thank you. Yeah, 5 to 10 years from now, I'll just focus on that one, making sure that I would be able to provide for my family and my new family, of course.
yeah.
So that
More
is
kids to
the
come too.
more kids. We'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see. This is the first kid, so we'll do it iteratively.
All right. My last question for you, Lance. What is your biggest tips for those people in the Philippines or planning to come here in Canada and look for IT jobs, software developer jobs?
Mm, I will say, be serious about your job.
Mm,
When you get your opportunity here, management will find out if you're actually a good engineer or you're not. And
okay.
this is one big difference between Philippines and Canada. In Philippines, it would take so much time before you get kicked out or booted out your
Yeah.
job if you're not doing well. In
Yeah.
Canada, it's just like you're out and stuff like
Uh,
and it's scary. So biggest step would be serious about the work that you're doing
mhm.
and deliver and deliver. So yeah,
Yeah. Good. Great tip. And good to point out that in the Philippines we do have like the labor laws there are kind of leaning towards the employees.
hmm
Here it's leaning towards the companies, so you can be easily boot out if you're like pretending to know your job or not know it at all. So
right.
yeah, great tip.
So yeah, just to add on that one, it wouldn't be an instant snap. There would be warnings.
Hmm.
We call it PIP.
Yeah,
I forgot the definition of
performance improvement plan.
exactly. So
Yeah.
you'll have that one, and if you don't step up to yourself or step up to the basically what is expected of you,
Hmm.
then unfortunately you will have to step out the company, stuff like that. So yeah, be serious about your job. That's my biggest tip.
Nice. Nice. So there you have it. Thanks, Lance. You got it first here in the Filipino Trailblazers podcast. If you're really interested in becoming or joining the IT industry, the software development industry, if you're in the Philippines, you want to come here in Canada and look for jobs, you can easily find it. You can go to Indeed or LinkedIn. Um, but of course, you also have to make sure that you have the actual skills to do it because you're going to be tested, and make sure you have the right skills. All right, that's the pod. Thanks,
Thank
Lance.
you. Thank you. See ya.